The sun was setting slowly behind the tall palm trees of Aniedo Kingdom, painting the sky with shades of orange and gold. The cool evening breeze carried with it the smell of roasted yam and the distant laughter of children playing by the village square. But above all sounds, one thing rose higher: the deep thundering of drums. Boom! 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 The sound was not ordinary. It was the kind of beat that made even the bravest of men pause and listen. It was the voice of the land calling out. Everyone in Aniedo knew what it meant. The season of the masquerade had arrived. The Masquerade of Aniedo Kingdom was not just a festival. It was the soul of the people, a bond between the living and the spirits of their ancestors. It was said that when the masquerades came out, they carried with them the blessings and warnings of those who had gone to the spirit world. But the Masquerade of Aniedo was unlike any other. It was sacred. It was feared. It was celebrated. And it was forbidden to question its mystery. That evening, the village square began to fill up. Men sat on wooden stools, their wrappers tied around their waists. Women gathered with their children, their beads shining in the dim light of the moon. Young boys carried small drums, mimicking the bigger ones, while the maidens, dressed in colorful wrappers, danced with graceful steps, their waist beads jingling. At the center of it all stood the great Iroko drum, tall and commanding, beaten by 3 strong men whose hands never seemed to tire. The rhythm was alive, making hearts beat faster. Soon, the air grew heavy with expectation. The masquerade would appear. Obi, a young boy of 16, stood at the edge of the square. His eyes were wide with excitement. He had been waiting for this day since he was a child. His father, Okafor, was one of the elders of the land, and he had often told Obi stories of the masquerade, stories of how it danced like the wind, how its mask was carved with secrets, and how no one dared to look beneath its veil. Obi's curiosity was burning inside him. He wanted to see, to know what lay behind the mask. Obi, his mother called softly, placing a hand on his shoulder, watch with your eyes, but keep your thoughts pure. Do not let your heart desire what is forbidden. Yes, Mama, Obi replied, though his eyes never left the open ground where the masquerade would soon appear. The elders of Aniedo gathered at the front, their white chalk-marked faces glowing in the torchlight. They lifted their staffs and raised their voices in chants, calling upon the spirits of the ancestors. The crowd grew silent, as if the very earth held its breath. And then it began. From the dark pathway leading into the forest came a sound: rattles shaking, footsteps stomping, and a haunting whistle that pierced the night. The masquerade was coming. The children clung to their mothers, the maidens lowered their eyes, and the men sat still, their faces firm. Slowly, the figure appeared. The Masquerade of Aniedo was a sight to behold. Its body was covered in layers of red, black, and white cloth that flowed as it moved. Its mask was long, carved with patterns that glowed under the torchlight, and its eyes shone like burning coals. Around its ankles were bells that sang with every step, and in its hand it held a whip, said to be able to strike both flesh and spirit. The crowd erupted in shouts of joy and fear. Some clapped, some bowed, some called out praises. The masquerade stamped its feet on the earth, and the drums followed its command. It moved with power, its dance fierce yet graceful, as though unseen hands guided its steps. Obi could not take his eyes off it. His heart pounded as he watched the masquerade spin and leap. But more than the dance, Obi longed to know who or what was inside. Was it a spirit, as the elder said? Or was it just a man, hidden under cloth and mask? The masquerade moved closer to the people, its bells jingling, its whip cracking in the air. Some villagers shouted, "Great Spirit! Messenger of our fathers!" Others fell to their knees. Obi felt a strange mix of fear and wonder. Then, something happened. The masquerade stopped suddenly, its fiery eyes landing on Obi. The drums paused, the air grew heavy, and everyone turned to look at the boy. Obi's breath caught in his throat. Why was it staring at him? The masquerade lifted its whip and struck the ground before Obi, the earth trembling at the impact. Then, in a deep, otherworldly voice, it spoke. "The curious one, beware." Gasps filled the air. The villagers began murmuring, some glancing at Obi with worry, others with pity. Obi's mother quickly pulled him back, shielding him with her arms. "Do not anger the spirit," one of the elders shouted. The masquerade turned away, continuing its dance as though nothing had happened. But for Obi, nothing would ever be the same. That night, when the drums had stopped and the people returned to their huts, Obi lay awake, staring at the ceiling of his father's house. The voice of the masquerade echoed in his head. "The curious one, beware." What did it mean? Why had the masquerade spoken to him and no one else? Obi's heart was restless. He wanted answers. He wanted to know the truth behind the mask of Aniedo. And in his heart, he made a silent decision. No matter the danger, no matter the cost, he would uncover the secret of the Masquerade of Aniedo Kingdom. But he did not know that his decision would lead him into mysteries deeper than he could imagine, and a destiny that would change not just his life, but the fate of the entire kingdom. The drums of Aniedo had called him, and there was no turning back. The next morning, Aniedo Kingdom woke to the sound of roosters crowing and women pounding yam in wooden mortars. Life seemed normal, but Obi's mind was far from peace. He had barely slept through the night. The words of the masquerade kept playing in his head like an old song, "The curious one, beware." Obi's mother noticed his restlessness as she spread palm oil over roasted yam for breakfast. "Obi," she said gently, "do not let your thoughts wander where they should not." The masquerade spoke, "Yes. But sometimes, spirits choose words that are not meant for us to question. Eat, and let your heart be calm." But Obi could not eat. "Mama, what if it wasn't just words? What if it was a warning, or maybe even a calling?" "Calling?" His mother's eyes widened in fear. She quickly looked around, lowering her voice. "Obi, do not say such things again. Do you want the spirits to hear you? The masquerade is not for boys to question. It is for the elders, for the shrine keepers, for those chosen to carry the staff of tradition. You are just a boy. Just a boy." The word stung Obi's pride. He clenched his fist. He didn't feel like just a boy anymore. Not after what happened last night. Later that day, Obi went to the river to fetch water. He carried a clay pot on his head, his mind still clouded with thoughts. As he bent by the riverbank, his best friend Chak appeared, grinning as always. "Obi, you looked like a goat lost in the bush," Chak teased, dropping his pot beside him. "What troubles you?" Obi hesitated. Chak was his closest friend, he could trust him. "Chak, did you see how the masquerade looked at me last night? Did you hear what it said?" Chak's smile faded. "Of course, everyone heard. The whole kingdom talks about it now. Some say you are marked, Obi." "Marked? For what?" Chak leaned closer, lowering his voice. "For something dangerous. My father told me long ago that the masquerade does not speak to just anyone. If it looks at you, then the spirits have seen something in your heart." Obi felt a chill. "And what if I want to know the truth behind it? What if I want to see who, or what, wears the mask?" Chak gasped so loudly that his pot almost fell into the river. "Obi, you must never say that again. Do you know the punishment for one who dares to uncover the masquerade? Death. Not just for you, but shame for your whole family. The masquerade is not a man. It is a spirit. That is what the elders say." Obi stared into the river, his reflection broken by ripples. He whispered, "What if the elders are hiding something? What if they only say it is a spirit so that no one asks questions?" Chai grabbed his arm. "Obi, stop. You are my friend, But I fear you will bring trouble to yourself. Leave the masquerade matter alone. Some secrets are not meant for us. But Obi's heart was already set. That night, when the moon rose again, he sat outside their hut, staring at the dark path that led into the sacred forest. He had heard stories of men who disappeared there, stories of voices calling out from the trees. But his curiosity burned hotter than fear. He knew the masquerade came from that forest. If he wanted the truth, he had to go there. As Obi thought of his plan, his father, Okafor, walked out and sat beside him. The old man's face was stern, his eyes sharp even in the dim light. "Obi," Okafor said, "you have been troubled since last night. Speak." Obi hesitated. Should he tell his father his thoughts? He remembered his mother's warning. But he also knew his father was an elder, a man who kept the secrets of the land. Maybe he would give him answers. "Papa," Obi began slowly, "why did the masquerade speak to me? Why did it call me the curious one?" Okafor sighed deeply, his shoulders heavy with silence. "Some things cannot be explained to you now, my son. The masquerade is not a matter for children. When the time is right, you will understand." "But Papa, what if I want to understand now? What if I want to know who is behind the mask?" At those words, Okafor's face changed. His voice hardened. "Never say that again. Do you hear me, Obi? That mask carries the spirit of our ancestors. It is not for you to uncover. If you value your life, bury that thought." Obi lowered his head, pretending to agree. But in his heart, he felt even more determined. The more they told him to stay away, the more he wanted to see. That same night, after everyone had fallen asleep, Obi quietly rose from his mat. The moonlight streamed through the cracks of the hut as he tiptoed outside. His heart pounded like the great Iroko drum, but his steps were steady. He had made his choice. With a small lantern in hand, Obi walked toward the sacred forest. The air grew colder as he entered, the trees towering above like silent guards. Crickets chirped, and somewhere in the distance, he heard the hoot of an owl. Every sound made his skin crawl, but he pressed on. The deeper he went, the more he felt the weight of the forest pressing on him. Strange whispers seemed to follow his steps. He thought he saw shadows moving among the trees, but when he turned, there was nothing. Finally, he reached a small clearing. In the center stood a wooden shrine, old and covered in palm fronds. Obi's breath caught. This must be the place where the masquerade began its journey. He stepped closer, his lantern casting long shadows. Suddenly, he heard the sound of rattles and a faint whistle, the same haunting sound from the night before. His blood ran cold. The masquerade was near. Obi quickly hid behind a tree, peeking from the side. His heart thundered as he saw movement from the shadows. Slowly, the masquerade emerged from the shrine. Its cloth flowed, its mask gleamed in the moonlight, and its bells jingled with each step. Obi's eyes widened. He was closer now than ever before. Closer to the truth. The masquerade began to dance, even though no drums played. It moved as if guided by unseen hands. Obi's body trembled, but his eyes refused to look away. Then something unbelievable happened. The masquerade stopped dancing. Slowly, it turned its fiery eyes toward where Obi hid. The same deep voice echoed through the night. "Curious one, you disobey." The ground beneath Obi shook, the trees rustled violently, and a cold wind swept across the clearing. Obi fell to his knees, his lantern slipping from his hand. He realized too late his curiosity had led him straight into the path of danger. And the masquerade was no longer just a mystery. It was watching him. The cold wind wrapped itself around Obi like the grip of an invisible hand. His teeth chattered, not only from fear but from the strange chill that filled the clearing. The masquerade stood still, its glowing eyes burning through the night, fixed on the boy who dared to follow. Obi's breath came in short, sharp gasps. His legs trembled, but he could not move. His heart screamed for him to run, but his spirit seemed rooted to the ground. The masquerade lifted its whip slowly. The bells at its ankles jingled, sending shivers down Obi's spine. The deep voice came again, louder this time. "Curious one, you crossed the line of men and spirits." Obi swallowed hard. He tried to speak, but his throat was dry. At last, he forced the words out. I just want to know the truth. Who are you? Are you truly a spirit? Or are you a man hiding beneath the mask? The forest grew silent. Not even the crickets dared to sing. For a moment, it felt as though the trees themselves leaned in to hear the answer. Then, the masquerade began to laugh. It was not a laugh of joy, but a sound that shook the leaves and rattled Obi's bones. You dare to ask what no one has ever asked. You dare to seek what is forbidden. Obi pressed his palms to the ground, bowing his head. Yes. I dare. I cannot live in fear of what I do not understand. If I must face punishment, let it be. But I must know the truth. For a long moment, there was silence. Then, the masquerade spoke again, its voice softer, almost sad. The truth is heavy, boy. It crushes those who are not ready. But since your spirit burns with questions, I will give you the first piece. Only the first. Obi raised his eyes, his chest pounding. Tell me. The masquerade took slow steps forward. With every step, Obi felt the earth tremble beneath him. Then, it stopped just a few feet away, close enough that Obi could see the carved lines on its mask glowing faintly like embers. Listen well, the masquerade said. I am not only what you see. I am spirit, but I am also man. I am the bridge between the world of the living and the world of the ancestors. Without me, Aniedo Kingdom would lose its bond with those who came before. I am not one, but many. I carry the breath of the dead, but I walk with the feet of the living. Obi's eyes widened. Spirit and man. The elders had always said the masquerade was only a spirit, never a man. Could it be that both were true? But how? Obi asked, his voice trembling. How can you be both? The masquerade lowered its whip and leaned closer, its voice like a whisper carried by the wind. There are men chosen by the gods, men who undergo the rites of fire and blood. When they wear the mask, their spirits leave their bodies and are filled with the power of the ancestors. They cease to be men, yet they do not become spirits fully. They become something in between. That is the secret of the masquerade. Obi's breath caught in his throat. The words were heavy, dangerous, but they lit a fire in his mind. The masquerade was not just cloth and wood. It was power, it was sacrifice, it was mystery. But before Obi could ask more, the masquerade's voice thundered again. Enough. You have heard what no boy should hear. If the elders knew, they would silence you forever. Go home, curious one. Forget what you saw. Forget what you heard. Obi shook his head. No. You cannot tell me part and expect me to stop. I must know everything. Who wears the mask? Who are the chosen men? The masquerade's eyes flared brighter, and the ground shook violently. Silence. Your hunger will destroy you. You have been warned. Obi staggered back as the wind roared through the trees. The masquerade raised its whip high, and with a crack like thunder, it struck the earth. The sound sent Obi tumbling backward, his lantern shattering. Darkness swallowed him whole. When Obi opened his eyes again, the clearing was silent. The shrine was still there, but the masquerade was gone. Only the faint jingle of bells lingered in the air before fading into silence. Obi lay on the ground, his heart racing, his mind spinning with what he had learned. Spirit and man. Rites of fire and blood. A bridge between the living and the dead. It was more than he ever imagined, but it only deepened his hunger for answers. He rose slowly, dusting himself off, and began the long walk back home. The night was still dark, but he no longer feared the forest. His fear had turned into something stronger: determination. When he reached his family's compound, the cock was already crowing. His mother was awake, preparing the morning meal. She looked up in shock when she saw him creeping in, his clothes dirty, his eyes red from lack of sleep. "Obi, where have you been? Do you want to kill me with worry?" she cried, rushing to him. Obi tried to answer, but the words stuck in his throat. How could he tell her what he had seen? How could he explain the secret he now carried? He simply bowed his head and whispered, "I am sorry, Mama." But inside, his resolve grew stronger. He could not stop now. He had seen too much. Later that day, Chek found him sitting under a mango tree, staring at nothing. "Obi, you look like a ghost," Chek said. "Did you not sleep?" Obi turned to him, his eyes intense. "Chek, listen to me. The masquerade, it is not only a spirit. It is also a man." Chek froze. "What?" "Obi, do not speak madness. I am not mad. I saw it with my own eyes, I heard it with my own ears. There are men chosen to carry the mask. They are filled with the power of the ancestors. That is the truth." Chek shook his head, fear in his eyes. "Obi, if anyone hears you, they will say you are cursed. Do you want the elders to tie you to the Iroko tree and offer you to the gods? Keep your mouth shut." But Obi leaned closer, whispering fiercely, "No, Chek. I cannot stop now. I must find out who the chosen men are. I must know everything." Chek's face turned pale. He looked around nervously before gripping Obi's arm. "Then you are walking into fire. And fire does not spare, Obi. Be careful." But Obi's mind was already made up. His journey into the forbidden had only just begun. The masquerade had given him the first secret. Now he would not rest until he uncovered the rest, even if it meant standing against the elders, against the kingdom, and against the very spirits themselves. The boy of Aniedo was no longer just curious. He was marked by destiny. The days that followed were heavy for Obi. The village of Aniedo was alive with whispers. People still remembered how the masquerade had spoken to him at the square. Mothers warned their children not to play too close to Obi, for fear that his curiosity might bring misfortune upon them. Some old men spat on the ground whenever he passed, muttering that nothing good comes from a boy who questions the ways of the ancestors. But Obi did not mind their stares or their whispers. His heart was burning, and his mind was restless. The masquerade had given him one secret, but it was not enough. He wanted more. He wanted everything. One evening, as the moon hung pale in the sky, Obi sat with Chek under the same mango tree where they often met. Chek's face was dark with worry. "Obi," he said, "why do you look like a man carrying the whole kingdom on his shoulders? I fear for you. Since the night you went to the forest, you have not been the same." Obi leaned closer, his voice low. "Chek, I know now that the masquerade is not just spirit. It is also man. But I need to know which men. Who are the chosen ones? Who wears the mask of Aniedo?" Chek's eyes grew wide with horror. "Are you mad? Do you want to die before your time? That is the greatest secret of the land. Even if I knew, I would never tell you. But someone in this kingdom must know," Obi pressed. "And I will find out. The masquerade cannot hide forever." Chek shook his head, fear trembling in his voice. "Obi, do not drag me into your fire. If you must chase death, chase it alone." He rose to his feet and walked away, leaving Obi under the tree with his thoughts. That night, Obi's chance came unexpectedly. He had gone to fetch firewood near the edge of the sacred forest when he saw two figures moving quietly under the shadows of the trees. They carried strange bundles wrapped in white cloth, and one of them held a staff carved with sacred marks. Obi crouched low, his heart pounding as he followed them silently. The men walked deeper into the forest, their voices low, chanting words Obi could not fully understand. He crept closer, stepping carefully on dry leaves, his ears straining. Soon, they reached a small hut hidden among the trees. Obi's eyes widened. He had never seen this place before. The men disappeared inside, and from within, Obi heard the sound of rattles, bells, and low chants. His heart leaped. Could this be the place where the masquerade was prepared? He pressed closer, hiding behind a thick tree trunk. Minutes passed, and then the door of the hut opened. Obi's breath caught in his throat. One of the men stepped out carrying part of the masquerade's cloth. The other followed, holding the long wooden mask. Obi's eyes grew wide. This was it, the mask of Aniedo, naked without the full costume, glowing faintly even in the dark. The men placed the items carefully on a wooden stand near the shrine. Then, one of them spoke in a voice that sent chills down Obi's spine. Tomorrow, the spirit will walk again. The people will praise, but they will never know the burden we carry. Obi's blood ran cold. These were no spirits, they were men. Men of flesh and blood, keepers of the kingdom's greatest secret. But before he could retreat, Obi's foot snapped a dry stick. Crack! The men froze. Slowly, their heads turned in his direction. Obi's heart stopped. He ducked quickly, but it was too late. Who goes there? One of them thundered. Obi turned and ran. The forest shook with their shouts as they gave chase. His legs flew like never before, branches whipping his face, thorns cutting his feet. But he did not stop. He knew if they caught him, he would never live to tell the tale. By the time Obi burst out of the forest and into the village, his body was trembling with fear. He collapsed on the ground near his father's compound, gasping for air. The next morning, the whole kingdom buzzed with news. The elders had heard that someone had spied on the sacred grounds. They gathered at the square, their faces hard as stone. The gong was beaten, summoning everyone. Obi stood among the crowd, trying to steady his breathing. His father, Okafor, stood among the elders, his staff raised high. People of Aniedo, Okafor declared, last night, a great abomination was committed. Someone entered the sacred forest and disturbed the holy shrine of the masquerade. This crime carries only one punishment: death. The crowd gasped. Mothers clutched their children, men shook their heads, and whispers spread like wildfire. Another elder, his voice sharp like a blade, added, if the guilty one does not confess, the spirits will bring sickness and famine upon us. The ancestors must be appeased. Obi's chest tightened. He could feel the eyes of the masquerade upon him, even though it was not there. His legs felt weak. Should he confess? Or stay silent? Then, the same two men he had seen in the forest stepped forward. They whispered something to the elders, pointing in Obi's direction. The square grew tense. Slowly, the elders turned their eyes toward him. Obi, son of Okafor, one of them called, step forward. Obi's mother cried out, but the guards held her back. Obi's feet felt heavy as he walked to the front, the entire village staring at him. Tell us, boy, Okafor said, his voice trembling between anger and fear, were you in the sacred forest last night? Obi's lips quivered. He looked at his father, at the elders, at the people of Aniedo. He wanted to lie, to say no, but the truth burned inside him. Yes, he whispered. Gasps filled the square. Some women screamed, others spat on the ground. The elders' faces darkened like storm clouds. You have broken the greatest law, one thundered. You must pay with your blood. The crowd roared in agreement. Some shouted, tie him to the Iroko tree. Others cried, let the spirits judge him. But before they could seize him, something happened. The drums began to beat. Boom! 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 Everyone froze. The masquerade was coming. The villagers stepped back, fear filling their eyes. The elders themselves looked uneasy. And then, from the sacred path, the masquerade appeared, its cloth flowing, its mask glowing, its bells ringing. It walked straight to Obi, ignoring the elders and the crowd. The square fell silent, all eyes fixed on the strange scene. The masquerade raised its whip and struck the ground before Obi. The voice boomed through the air. "This boy belongs to me." The crowd gasped. The elders exchanged worried glances. The masquerade had never before claimed a person as its own. Obi's heart raced. What did it mean? Did the masquerade want to protect him or destroy him? The kingdom of Aniedo had never seen anything like this. The entire square of Aniedo Kingdom went silent. Men who normally spoke with thunder in their voices now bowed their heads. Women clutched their children tightly. Even the elders, who held the laws of the land, shifted uneasily as the masquerade's words echoed. "This boy belongs to me." The ground still vibrated where the whip had struck. Dust swirled in the air, and Obi stood frozen, his knees weak but his heart alive with both fear and a strange, burning pride. His father, Okafor, stepped forward, gripping his staff tightly. His voice shook. "Great Spirit, how can this be? He is but a boy. He has broken the law of the ancestors. The punishment is death. Why do you claim him?" The masquerade's fiery eyes turned on Okafor. The voice came, deep and commanding, rattling the very air. "You speak of law. But there is a law older than your staff. The bloodline calls, and the mask answers. This boy is chosen." The crowd erupted in gasps and murmurs. Some shouted that it was a curse. Others whispered that it was a blessing. The elders looked at each other, confusion and fear written across their chalk-marked faces. Okafor's face tightened. He stared at Obi, his chest heavy. His voice was low, almost breaking. "Chosen. But it cannot be. He is too young. He is not prepared." The masquerade turned back to Obi. "Come." Obi's legs moved before his mind could resist. Step by step, he walked toward the towering figure. The bells on its ankles jingled, the cloth swayed, the mask glowed. When Obi stood before it, the masquerade placed its whip upon his shoulder. The voice dropped, softer now, as if speaking to him alone. "Do not fear. You are the blood of the keepers. You were born for the mask." Obi's eyes widened. His blood. Born for the mask. He wanted to ask more, but before he could, the masquerade turned and began to walk back toward the sacred path that led into the forest. Without hesitation, Obi followed. The villagers cried out in shock. Some reached forward as if to pull him back, but no one dared touch him. Even the elders stayed rooted to the ground. His mother wept, calling his name, but Obi did not turn. His father lowered his head, his staff shaking in his hand. The masquerade led Obi deep into the sacred forest. The night air grew heavy, filled with the sounds of unseen spirits whispering. They reached the hidden hut where Obi had once spied. This time, the door opened wide for him. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of herbs, blood, and burning incense. Carvings of ancestors lined the walls, their wooden eyes watching him. Obi's heart pounded, but he did not step back. The masquerade turned to him. Then, slowly it began to peel away its cloth. Obi's eyes grew wide. His chest heaved. And then the mask came off. What Obi saw nearly stopped his heart. It was a man. But not just any man. It was his own father, Okafor. Obi stumbled backward, his mouth open in shock. "Papa. It was you." Okafor's face was tired, his eyes heavy with sorrow. He set the mask carefully on the altar, its glow fading. Then he turned to Obi. Yes, my son. I am one of them. The bearer of the mask. The bridge between our world and the world of our ancestors. This has been our family's duty for generations. The mask has always chosen from our bloodline. Obi's knees weakened. He sat on the floor, his head spinning. All this time, you said it was only a spirit. Okafor knelt before him. Because you were not meant to know yet. The truth is not given to boys, Obi. It is given to men who are ready to carry the weight. But the mask has spoken, and it has chosen you too soon. Obi's eyes filled with tears. Then why did the masquerade warn me? Why did it call me the curious one? Okafor placed a hand on his shoulder. Because curiosity is both a gift and a curse. The mask knew your hunger for truth would bring you here. It warned you, but it also knew you could not turn back. You are marked, Obi. The ancestors saw you long before you saw yourself. Obi trembled, torn between fear and pride. But I am not ready. I do not know the chants, the rites, the secrets. How can I carry such a burden? Okafor's eyes softened. None of us are ready when we are chosen. The mask itself teaches. It breaks you, then it remakes you. But remember this, Obi, when you wear it, you are no longer just yourself. You are all who came before. You are spirit and man, flesh and shadow. For a long moment, Obi sat in silence, the weight of destiny pressing on him. Then, slowly, he nodded. If this is who I am meant to be, then I will not run. Okafor looked at him with both sorrow and pride. He rose, lifted the mask from the altar, and held it before Obi. Then take it. Tonight, the spirits will test you. Obi's hands shook as he reached forward. The mask was heavier than he expected, its wood warm, almost alive. The moment his fingers touched it, a surge of power rushed through his body. He gasped, his heart racing. Wear it, Okafor commanded. Obi raised the mask slowly, his breath shallow. The moment it covered his face, the world changed. He felt as though his spirit was being pulled out of his body, lifted high above the trees. He saw flashes of the ancestors' warriors, kings, mothers, children all surrounding him, chanting his name. Obi, Obi, Obi. He felt their strength, their wisdom, their sorrow, their joy. He was no longer just a boy. He was 1,000 spirits, 1,000 lives. The mask became his skin, and his body moved with power he had never known. He rose to his feet, his cloth flowing, the bells jingling, the whip alive in his hand. He was the masquerade. Okafor bowed before him, tears in his eyes. The spirits have accepted you. From this night forward, you are no longer just Obi. You are the guardian of Aniedo, the living bridge. Obi's voice came, deep and strange, carrying both his own tone and the echo of countless ancestors. I am the curious one no more. I am chosen. Outside, in the village, the people heard the drums thunder once more. They looked toward the forest and saw the glow of the mask shining brighter than ever before. Some knelt and praised. Others trembled in fear. But all knew one thing: Aniedo Kingdom had a new masquerade, and its name was Obi. The boy who dared to question had become the very mystery he sought. And from that day, the legend of Obi, the Masquerade of Aniedo, lived on in the songs and stories of the land. The end. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.